So it's been pretty aggressive again. What do you mean by aggressive? Well, particle acceleration and all that, everything is connected. Had a few hives yesterday. My husband came home for a minute, and I mean, pretty energetic. It was very energetic yesterday, and it's energetic this morning. I definitely had to wake up when I woke up around 4 and released the demons and blew my nose, and it wasn't that bad, and it was just like, okay, whatever. So yeah, I discovered the grand unified theory that finally puts everything together. And it's not like me saying, okay, well, I'm going to put everything together. There is an actual concept that Einstein was trying to prove. Okay, Einstein back in, what is it, 19 something? That he was trying to achieve the goal of proving that everything is connected from the micro to the macro. But, you know, he did the whole theory of relativity, E equals mc squared and everything else. And then I figured out that we got to have some kind of target date to at least give us some hope that this hell that we're in right now, because we're in hell right now, is not going to last forever. I mean, it won't last forever, but you know, through the conspiracy world, the Georgia Guidestones, what's going on now out there in the population with people dying suddenly, we're going through a major scale down. And it just begun. And you're hearing all the different conspiracy theorists out there who are pounding the gavel of awareness, the influencers on YouTube, like Donut and other Illuminati, you know, decoders, right? Trying to figure out the patterns that are going on. Yeah, you see what I'm doing, putting numbers together. You go to Donut's page, and that's over like on YouTube. And he's Mr. Illuminati trying to give people warnings and point out certain patterns that seem to give us some kind of predictor indicator of what's to come. So I know that I'm coming from the point of view of biology and immortality and longevity, same thing, suffering. And I know that people are going to be suffering astronomically. And so I figure if I'm going to write the next book, it can't come out too soon because there's still so much yet to be experienced and also confirmed. Because you can put out predictors, you can put out indicators, you can put out theories and projections, but it doesn't mean that they're going to come out the way you expect. And so I don't want to be too quick on the trigger and be like, this is going to happen, but I'll put projections out there, but I'm not going to confirm them and immortalize it in a book and say, okay, this is what's going to happen. And then 7 years later, certain things don't happen. So I figure, well, if I'm going to follow the rules of numerology, especially with the Rosicrucians, who take all the different religions and spirituality dogmas from the past, present, and future, and understand the Jewish mysticism, you know, Christian Gnosticism, you know, the Greek and Roman and Egyptian alchemy and all that, then I figure, well, by 2030, we should see a lot of what we've projected right now come to fruition and can be like, well, I told you so 7 years later or 6 years later now. So 2030, when you add 2 plus 3 equals 5, 5 books of Moses, Deuteronomy. How many of you are cycling through your lifelines so fast? Talk about lifelines, which is you get 50 lifelines through one immortal germline cell. That is your first life, which is your life right now. And then some people get the chance to realize their second lifeline if they understand my information. Oh, now you're making some claims. Yes, I am. But from my point of view, it doesn't mean that you could do it. But from my vantage point, from my theories and everything else that I've been putting out there, I'm backing it up with science. Absolutely, you do have a second chance at life, but it's fucking painful. Not everybody can do it. Will Gen X live to see Deuteronomy? Much less every other generation out there burning through their lifeline so fast. 6 years of hell. Well, what the hell is Deuteronomy, right? What Deuteronomy, the book of Deuteronomy is a significant text in Jewish theology. It is a farewell message from Moses to the Israelites, reminding them of the mistakes of the previous generations. Deuteronomy is a reiteration of Jewish law set out in earlier books of the Torah. It is primarily concerned with monotheism, or the worship of a single deity. Well, absolutely, I understand the single deity, monotheism, because when you think about my body is my temple, and I house both positive and negative, and they have to be balanced, and you have too much positive, it becomes lopsided, too much negative becomes lopsided, and that's all relative to how you want to characterize what positive negative is. That's essentially what the Jewish theology is coming from, is that you are one that houses both. The world is one that houses both positive and negative, and we can't allow too much extremes on either end. And we have to learn from the past. A farewell message from Moses to the Israelites. Okay? A farewell message from Moses to the Israelites saying, okay, now look back in all the earlier books of Moses and see what we have done and try to correct. And that's why we've gone through so many resets. That's why we've gone through so many different civilizations. There's a reason why civilizations rose way back when and fell way back when, and then rose again and fell and rose and fell. And it's just like, what the heck? But yes, that is humanity evolving. And yeah, there has been drugs, there has been alcohol, there has been despots and dictators and mass death and pleasure and paradise and beauty and ugly and monsters and angels and oh my gosh. Oh yeah, humanity has a rich history. And so 6 years of hell. Okay, so if I'm going to say, well, Deuteronomy is the last of the 5 books of Moses, and you figure 2030, UN Agenda 2030, 2 plus 3 is 5 books of Moses, 50 years Hayflick limit, 6 years of hell of people being purged out, people purging out themselves, purging out the old world out of their body, which is what the demons are. When you think about it, it's not like anyone else is really a demon out there, but you have an old self that you have inherited from your family genetic line that you must purge out and assimilate to this new world, a new self. And it happens simultaneously. When I felt that web-like substance through all my joints in my body, that was mycoplasma. That was like a pneumonia that I had back in July of 2022. I was dealing with that demon of releasing the old self and taking on the new self. And it's very subtle. It's not like one day you wake up one way, and then you wake up another way in another day. No, it's like, it's a very subtle transition process. It's a progressive change. I'm not the same person I was 7 years ago. You look at my old videos on my old page, and you saw what I was doing back then, and you look at what I am doing today, you'd be like, is that the same person? She doesn't even look the same. She's a clone, right? People say that to Hollywood stars when they've gone through a sickness that incapacitated them and they disappeared out of the limelight for a year or months, whatever, and they come back and they look a little bit different. Well, yeah, obviously. Do I look the same that I did 7 years ago? No. I'm not a clone. It's just going through a change and supporting it, and maybe Hollywood stars get advanced medicine to help them through that change. They're still deteriorating, but they still live to see another day. And so I hope you set yourself up for it to survive this 6 years of hell. I hope you are setting your kids up to surviving this 6 years of hell. 6 years of pure hell. Literally pure hell. The climate change, global warming is a hell we're going into and in. At least now you have a target date. I mean, I'm not saying things are going to really calm down by 2030 but maybe the bulk aggressive part might calm down by 2030. But if you can survive between now and 2030 and you're not super suffering like on your way out the door between now and 2030 and you haven't had too many things done to you through the medical holistic system and you're going through the pain and suffering between now and 2030 and you don't die between now and 2030 and you're not completely decrepit between now and 2030, you'd probably be able to survive between 2030 and 2050, the next 20 years. Because when you think about where we're going into 2050 and then 2060, then 2100. And then one day, like someone mentioned on Donut, I was listening to him last night, and he had somebody, or this morning, he had somebody else he was collaborating with, and they're saying like 2140 is when you might see the outcome of the intentions. 2140, that's a lot of years from now. He was saying everyone's going to be dead that's here today. Not necessarily. I'm lucky enough to be in the West, but I still can't guarantee that through all the wars that are going to be happening, that are subtly happening. You know, it's not like someone declared World War II. It was just happening way back when. That's what I heard also from one of these channels. The people didn't even know that they were in World War II. It was just happening. It was just going on. People don't even know they're in World War III right now. It's happening. It's just going on. And you know the conspiracy world's like, dude, if you don't see something's going on right now, then your head's in your act. You're under a rock. We're in World War III. And it's a different war for everybody. It really is. And so, at least now you have a target date. You must survive the next 6 years without suffering from some major condition. And if you are suffering, you better support it, survive it, and do whatever you can to save yourself, but also release the old world and take on the new world. And yourself could be a new self. It doesn't mean you save the old self. I still have parts of me that I still remember, but I'm not looping in the traumas of the past, right? I still remember the good memories. And I'm also very aware of the current world I live in today. And I will fight to stay alive, fight to stay relevant in my specific capacity. I will fight to keep things going the way that I want them to go as we're trying to survive this transition. 6 years, people. 6 years. And so when I discovered the grand unified theory, I didn't discover it. I just discovered who discovered it. And I didn't think... I studied Einstein from specific vantage points. So it was blood type, and also maybe E equals MC squared. Studied some of his special relativity, and then relativity and other things, that were written about him. But when you read things, I might have seen the unified field theory, but I didn't make that connection yet because I was my brain and my body and my spirit was not ready to make that connection. But when I did a Google again with trying to figure out what his blood type was again. Remember, I Googled that, or I wrote that because of Bill Gates, trying to figure out what Bill Gates' blood type is. And Bill Gates kind of looks like my dad. So I'm assuming my dad was like blood type A or B. So if Einstein is blood type B, mad scientist and whatever, then it wouldn't be too far from the realm of possibility that Bill Gates is also a blood type B. And then I also read along with that, and I saw they wrote somewhere that it said that he didn't realize his goals. So his goal wasn't to invent the E equals MC squared. His goal was to prove the grand unified theory. But what is that? So unified field theory. There's Wikipedia that gives you kind of the short and the long of it. And then I'm using Britannica. In particle physics, because remember, we're in particle acceleration, CERN, Large Hadron Collider. Everything is all relative. Everything is based upon the particles in your body, mind, and spirit, right? In particle physics, an attempt to describe the fundamental forces and the relationship between elementary particles in the terms of a single theoretical framework. In physics, forces can be described by fields that mediate interaction between separate objects. Okay, in the mid-19th century, James Clerk Maxwell formulated the first field theory in the theory of electromagnetism. That's out there in the universe, in space. Okay, and even here. Then in the early part of the 20th century, Albert Einstein developed general relativity, a field theory of gravitation. Later, Einstein and others attempted to construct a unified field theory in which the magnetism, and gravity would emerge as different aspects of single fundamental field. They failed, and to this day, gravity remains beyond attempts at a unified field theory. Okay, at subatomic distances, fields are described by quantum field theories, which apply the ideas of quantum mechanics to the fundamental field. In the 1940s, quantum electrodynamics, QED, the quantum field theory of electromagnetism, became fully developed. In QED, charged particles interact as they emit and absorb photons, minute packets of electromagnetic radiation, in effect exchanging the photons in a game of subatomic catch. This theory worked so well that it became the prototype for theories of other forces. Okay? And then during the 1960s and 70s, this is then also, it also has to do with biology as well, because those are not mutually exclusive, they're all together. During the 1960s and 70s, particle physicists discovered that matter is composed of two types of basic building blocks. The fundamental particles known as quarks and leptons. The quarks are always bound together with larger observable particles, such as protons and neutrons. They are bound by the short-range strong force which overwhelms electromagnetism at subnuclear distances. The leptons, which include the electrons, do not feel the strong force. However, quarks and leptons both experience a second nuclear force, the weak force. So there's strong, there's weak, right? Death and life, right? This force, which is responsible for certain types of radioactivity classes together as beta decay, is feeble in what? Oh, in comparison with electromagnetism. Now, I'm not going to read all of this, so there's that. And then, so you see that that's what I was studying the last 7 years, was the subatomic particles. Even wrote about it. Okay, I don't know if I haven't reviewed my last book again, but I know I wrote about it with on my Facebook. And here's Wikipedia's. It's called the GUT, the GUT, Grand Unified Theory, GUT. In any model in particle physics, submerges electromagnetic weak and strong forces, the three-gauge interactions of the standard model, into a single force at high energies. Although this unified force has not been directly observed, many GUT models theorize its existence. If the unification of these three interactions is possible, okay, so electromagnetic, weak and strong, and that's all relative, right? Everything is relative. Death and life, and magnetism. Okay? It raises the possibility that there was a grand unification epoch in the very early universe in which these fundamental interactions were not very distinct. And so experiments have confirmed that high energy, the electromagnetic interaction and weak interactions unify into a single combined electro-weak interaction. GUT models predict that at very high energy, the strong and the electro-weak interactions will unify into one electronuclear interaction. The interaction is characterized by one larger gauge symmetry and thus several force carriers, but one unified coupling constant. Unifying gravity with the electronuclear interaction would provide a more comprehensive theory of everything. So now you have another theory called theory of everything, rather than a grand unified theory. Thus, GUT are often seen as intermediate steps towards the theory of everything. Well, shit, now I got to do the theory of everything. But I'm coming from the gut because everything is coming from the gut. Now, you can do the theory. I can go and be like, okay, fine, now it's a theory of everything. But when you think about where I'm coming from in the J world and how your poop is the programming of the old world or the new world. So I don't want to get too ahead of myself and leave people in the dust where they're like, where the hell are you coming from? You're just going to regurgitate what he's doing. Now I'm coming from a very specific vantage point that people can relate to, which is their own body, mind, and spirit, their politics, religion, science, their colon, and what they feel on a day-to-day basis and what they need to feel if they want to save their own fucking life. And so the whole grand unified theory is more appropriate in my world versus then going a step further to the theory of everything, because you have to understand how the grand unified theory relates to your gut, relates to the food, every food that you need to eat, relates to everything. So the novel particles predicted by the GUT models are expected to have extremely high masses around the gut scale. Okay, and then there's Planck scales, and then there's particle. Now here we go. And so are well beyond the reach in any foreseen particle had during collider experiments. Oh, my nose. Oh my God. Burn. Sometimes some things, right, burn as they go through. Oh my God, that's way crazy. Okay, so and so the novel particles predicted by the GUT models are expected to have extremely high masses around the gut scale 10 to the 16th power, or GeV, just 3 orders of magnitude below the Planck scale 10 to the 19, and so are well beyond the reach of any foreseen particle hadron collider experiments. Therefore, the particles predicted by gut models will be unable to be observed directly, and instead, the effects of brain unification might be detected through indirect observations of the following: proton decay, okay, electric dipole moments of elementary particles, or the properties of neutrinos. And so, yeah, so you can't even see these, but you see the effects. All right? Okay, wow. Sometimes when my body's releasing that burning up here, whoo, that's like, that's crazy. Anyways, so I wanted you to see what that was, because that is extremely important to understand the physics part of the biology that you have to be aware of in your own survival and all this. And yeah, blood types. When I was trying to Google and ask Google and Bing what Bill Gates' blood type, and there's really nothing except for that one thing through answers.com that really there's no corroboration. Do you believe just some blog site that says, yeah, he's blood type B? But I would venture to say it was probably true, A or B. And though Steve Jobs, he's O negative. He's O negative. Now that was confirmed somewhere. He's O negative. But remember, he's so skinny. He probably had a specific diet. And I met someone yesterday. I wanted to meet someone, but I was talking to someone yesterday who is O positive like me. Major gut issues, can't eat red meat, can't eat cabbage, can't eat leafy greens, because it would send him into a trigger, into a type of major inflammation. Can't drink milk. He can only eat fish and chicken. But he's very limited on the meat and the milk, and he's O positive. I was like, holy shit. And he's only 30 years old. He's a young dude. And he has children, 2 kids and everything. And I'm just like, oh my gosh. That's some crazy shit. Okay, so when I think about then people who are blood type O, who are being taken down so many notches because of the conditioning of intolerance. And you're afraid of symptoms and even blood type O's are being taken down. It's the strong blood type O positives and even the O negatives, I guess, if they can handle that energy conversion and stepping out of the old world into the new world, whatever that is, that will survive this. The A's and B's have to also do something different. And maybe they'll eventually turn into O. Who knows? But again, remember, that's still left up for discussion. That's still left to be seen. So anyway, so Bill Gates was saying, I was reading some of the articles, and Bill Gates is saying everything will be related to blood type. You will find out the truth of everyone and everything, and you will control people through their blood types. Well, that's exactly what's going on right now. They figure out what your weaknesses are. They figure out the psychological conditioning, regardless of blood type. They'll find a way to control you. Who's they? The system. Remember, they have to control humans from reproducing so much. And humans reproduce so much. They do. You can't tell them not to. So what does the system do? They go into climate change. Turn up the heat. Be like an oncology. And burn through people's lifelines so much faster they don't have a chance to gain lifelines because they're using up the ones just to survive the heat. That's what's going on. That's why when I see the hives like I had yesterday, I had hives. My husband's like, what the hell's going on, Jolene? You have hives again. I'm like, well, yeah, but I just deal with them. They're not bad. So, they were the last couple of days, but not really that bad. I was just itching with my little back scratcher, itching my back, itching my front, itching here, itching there. I'm like, whatever. And then they disappear. And they just disappear. So it's not a big deal, all right? And so I gain lifelines, and I gain also intelligence and intellectual capability with these hives. It's growth, it's new connections, new neural pathways. But other people are burning through their lifelines because they haven't gained the substance, the intelligence. They're in deficit, they're psychologically conditioned against food, their kids are suffering, and so they're they're resisting letting their kids go, which I understand why you wouldn't. And so then they're taking themselves down too. And so what I said after yesterday's transmission, which was, I can finally legitimately claim Switzerland neutrality and understand why cannabis users are what they are and why drug addicts are what they are. Okay. RH negatives, and I was thinking about Steve Jobs being O negative, and he's his own little, genius. Though I still like Microsoft better. I don't like Apple. Why is that? Well, maybe Bill Gates has a better everything. Yeah, Jobs did great. We had Apple computers in Silicon Valley, but I like Microsoft way better. I like their products. I like everything about Microsoft. I've always been a Microsoft person. I never had an Apple, ever. And so RH negs equals skinnier, relative. Brains work faster because of the kinetic energy, because of the antigen programming genius levels. That kinetic energy causes, energy to cause people to think faster and make connections faster. Doesn't mean they're going to keep their faculties, but during the time that they are keeping relative equilibrium, they are producing some major awesome stuff. So A, B, and AB skinnier brains working even faster because of the antigen programming genius levels of existence. So RH negatives have fast brains. So do the A's and B's. The O's can have fast brains. Okay, positives, but you have to know how to release. Since O's in a slower frequency environment didn't get the luxury of the kinetic energy, that's when they probably turned to amphetamines and lots of coffee. That's what I turned to when I was in my 20s. I was drinking 4 to 6 shots of espresso to keep up with everybody else. So yeah, you see why some people turn to downers and why some people turn to uppers. It's the blood type. Now I remember, because I used to drink Mocha Valencias in the 90s when they had the orange mochas at Starbucks. It was so good. I remember always drinking so much coffee all the time, mochas and chocolate, everything that was caffeinated to keep me going. Because I didn't have the luxury of the antigen programming, and the environment was really calmed down. So I had to develop the energy through outside sources. Now we're in a higher frequency environment. Those who are A and B and negatives, they're getting a vast amount of energy, not only from their blood types, but also from the environment. And those who are O, positive, are seeing either fast growth or fast connections if they can release those demons. And so even yesterday I had to poop. My husband came home. My stomach hurt for a minute, and I had to go to the bathroom, and there wasn't that much that came out. It was okay. It was great. And that was it. But I know he influenced that environment to cause in my body to go through that process of release. And the last couple of days with the hives and all the energy, and then hear all the sirens, my body has been releasing extensively without destroying me, without losing lifelines. Because every time I eat, I gain lifelines. Every single time I eat ice cream, eat spaghetti, I eat meat and prime rib and all that, I gain lifelines. Okay? So however, when so much kinetic energy is in the body in such a highly accelerated environment, those blood types do supernova faster as they try to keep up with the speed of their atmosphere. That's why blood type A and B's and even Rh negatives, so O negatives can better support themselves out there because they have that nice balancing force. It's the A negatives and the B negatives that are really at a deficit. And if you have A positive and B positive, AB positive, you're still at a deficit because you have so much antigen, not enough antibodies. So you really have to play that one very carefully, okay? And so, which was why pot was used to self-medicate to slow down the brain, or why amphetamines are used for blood type O's to speed up the brain. So I'm blood type O, which means I keep taking on the information and antigen in the environment, developing antibodies for protection via the food supply, and I also must release demons so I do not become as big as a house, and yet still keep intelligence and intellectual capability. It is a daily process in this environment because of how caffeinated the world is right now. And I never ever starve myself, which is what many blood type O's do when they see themselves gaining weight extremely fast. Not only are they weakening their blood vessels, but they're also their vital organs. And so my method in my book takes the pressure off the heart and the blood vessels and the intestines So you do not have to strain so hard releasing demons, and you are not curing the demons in the body with the J juice. So that's why you cough, sneeze, blow your nose, and understand your lower immune system and your upper immune system. And so all food is necessary, especially in a highly highly aggressive environment, and feeling the body release via lymph nodes, poop, pee, sweat, without forcing the body to do what via intentional catalysts like holistic allopathic protocols do is necessary. And that sounds awkward. I'll have to say that again. And so what is this? All food is necessary, especially in a highly aggressive environment, and feeling the body release via the lymph nodes, poop, pee, sweat, without forcing the body to do what the intentional catalyst like holistic allopathic is necessary. Oh my God, that sounds really crazy. And I never ever starve the body or starve the demons within. I feed them and release them and feel them being released organically via intentional catalyst like holistic. Okay. All right. And so, yeah, you have to eat all food. You don't want to use the catalyst of even the J juice or any other holistic allopathic. Blood type O's will take on many demons via the diverse company they keep, and blood type Rh negatives and AB will be deleted faster if they do not learn how to manage the antigen in their blood, because the energy is using up their lifelines. There is no antibodies for Rh negatives. That's why they are when you're around an Rh negative, their energy is antigen. They are the antigen, and there is no antibody for that antigen. That's like an A and B. They are energy. Okay? And so if you have antigen A, which is energy A, and you don't have any A antibodies, there's no balancing force. But you have B antibodies, so when the B comes around you, you're able to balance out that, but you don't have any antibodies for your own blood type. And then O's have both A and B, but then O positives don't have any antibodies for the Rh negatives. They have to now make sure they eat food to make up for the energy that the A's, B's, and the Rh negatives are taking from them. So the O positives have to keep the balance of the Rh negatives and the A and B. And it's such an interesting balancing force when you understand blood types and even say it really, really quickly. Okay? And so, and I feed them and release them, demons, and feel them being released organically. Blood type O's will take on many demons via the diverse company they keep, and blood type Rh negatives and A, B, and AB will be deleted faster if they do not learn how to manage the antigen in their blood, because of that energy is using up their lifelines. Living with animals will cause the animal antigen to fight for space in your body, called infestation. So when I was trying to save my dog, and I did whatever I had to do to save my dog, when she finally died and I finally was able to relax, not on adrenaline, because I was on adrenaline every single day during that last part of that process, and everyone was like in my ear and all that, getting so much hate mail. I was like, geez. And when I finally was able to relax for a minute, that's when I got the stiff neck. Those microbes in my body were trying to take over. Like literally trying to take over. That's the mycoplasma, yes. Those were the myrtle germline cells were trying to take over. And you can't tell which ones were. You can't tell if the body was trying to finally come back from and had mycoplasma. You just don't know what exactly. So you have to figure out how to release whatever old self or old world or an invading force, and you'll have no idea what it is, okay? But you know that anytime you get around animals and people, there's always going to be an evolution. And you're going to have to release the old and stay with the new and bring on the new and evolve. And that's why constant evolution is deadly, because you have to support it, and that's a lot to support, and that's why it's better for those who are compromised to lessen their interaction with diverse companies so that constant evolution doesn't destroy them. Okay, that's a strategy, especially if you know if you're a blood type A and B. But if you're O negative, you can handle that give and take. And my husband's O negative, I'm O positive. I know how I'm able to keep up with him, because I release demons. Even though he burns through his lifelines and gains them simultaneously, I'm gaining so many lifelines that I have to now release some of them that will work against me. And I have to do that, the way I do it in my book, and keep eating food and deal with the compounding intelligence that I gain every single time I get hives and I have new, epiphanies about stuff. And that's the thing is innovation comes from epiphanies, and innovation comes from energy. And so, and I was a little bit snarky yesterday. If you think I'm stupid, fine. It's your funeral, right? The grand unified theory, everything is connected from the macro to the micro and the micro to the macro. The J world, everything starts and ends with your gut or grand unified theory. Too much gut or not enough died suddenly. Learn how to balance the microbes in your gut. Only you know what diseases you foster and love to hate and hate to love. So people love to hate their cancer and they hate to love their ADD and ADHD, but that's their identity. They're like, this is who I am. I have lupus. I have MS. I have cancer. I have this. So they own the things that they are fostering. They own the diseases. And so when they own disease and they own it as their identity, they're never going to want to give it away. That's who they are. That's what gives people then, social capital. That's the thing. When you don't have any diseases and you don't have any depression and you're not suffering and all that, no one gives a shit, right? If you're doing okay, no one gives a shit, right? You're like an insurance agent. When you're doing great, everything's great, no one gives a shit. But when things go bad, right? When things go bad, then you're in contact with your insurance agent. Then you get all your friends and families flocking around you, giving you all the support and gifts and food and everything else. And so it's lucrative to be sick. It's lucrative to be suffering. It's lucrative to be depressed. It's lucrative to be lonely. All right? And so only you know what diseases you foster and love to hate and hate to love. You can splinter off your intelligence with children, but they will survive. But will they survive? Will you survive? If you have not figured out everything is connected, your blinders will destroy you. Your resistance in following people, place, and things so blindly will destroy you. So I took a blurb out of that Wikipedia. His goal was to describe all physical phenomena. Einstein. From the smallest subatomic particles to the entire universe, under the umbrella of a grand unified theory. He never succeeded, but Einstein's dream did not die with him. The quest for the grand unified theory is one of the hottest topics pursued in physics today, and then it turns into the theory of everything. Boom. If you still think I'm stupid, fine. It's your fucking funeral. And so, as the environment speeds up, so will all lifelines be sped up and used up in both animals and children. Milk, meat, cheese, carbs, gluten, fruit, veggies, sugar, salt is necessary to gain more lifelines or end up a statue never evolving and be destroyed by the elements like an abandoned building destroyed by the elements. Now you know why children, animals, and the elderly and the compromised will be sacrificed first, because they don't have as many lifelines as middle-aged people who aren't fighting too much disease. And if you're fighting disease and you're going to have to figure out how to release those demons and gain substance, and that's a progressive transition that you can't just be like one day you release demons and one day you gain substance and everything's great. No, it's been a 7-year process for me, more so the last 3 years. Too many people are allergic to food and are in deficit with certain lifestyles that are speeding up the use of their lifelines. Now we just watched some supernova on Facebook. As the environment speeds up, the war drums are accelerating. Just watch your activists out there trying to ram their remedies and belief systems down your throat. Watch all the salesmen keep trying to gain so much customer market share. Watch even the religious people ram the Bible and all the scripture down your throat. I don't care what religion you practice when that is part of your repertoire. Sped up. Or you're watching love gurus ram their love down your throat. Welcome to the 1960s all over Facebook. The grand unified theory. Indeed. And you know what Indeed is? It's a job website. Indeed. You're programmed for a certain thing, and then there's jobs for your programming. You see what people were trained for, to do, and were programmed to do, and on an exponential scale. You're also watching people release their trauma, and you support them by staying out of their drama. Keep being the representation. You can survive all the trauma and drama from the past, present, and the future. Reality is the ultimate Bible. You're watching everything happen simultaneously. Keep your head on a swivel and watch the weather. It's only going to get worse. Okay? And so then, they had a shooting over there in an economically desirable area called North Canton, right near City Hall. Somebody had their windows shot out, and they still don't know who it is that who did it. It's still under investigation. You know? Still under investigation. And so try not to get caught in the crossfire of people releasing their demons, because they will be formidable. Remember how aggressive I was the last 7 years? You remember how I was? Oh my gosh, some of you had watched some of my videos that I've done where I'm just going off. Going off on somebody, triggering me or something. And then people are like, oh gosh, she's got parasites. She's freaking crazy. She's got this, she's got that. Well, absolutely. The system knew how deadly the purge process was. Yeah, I was in purge the last 7 years, and it came out through so many different ways. But even though I was triggered and people were coming after me, literally, like spiritually, even legally, they were trying to come after me legally. I still went to court and they didn't show up. But since I knew where they lived, did I go to their house and terrorize them? No, I had no desire to terrorize people through whatever I was doing, or because someone was trying to come after me legally. My intention was never to terrorize other people. But you see what people's intentions was to terrorize me. And I was not anywhere in their world. I was not anywhere near them. I didn't even know them. These are fucking strangers. And so you see people's intentions to literally purposely terrorize other people and hunt them. Those are the predators in our society that when you don't even know who the fuck they are, they're strangers to you. And they're trying to hunt you, even legally, because you're reacting to something that they're doing, terrorizing and radicalizing people against you, to where they even tell them, go terrorize Jillian. Now you see in the YouTube videos that those who are exposing crimes and stuff like that, they're saying, do not go and stalk somebody. Do not go and terrorize somebody because of this information. Do not turn into a fucking predator, because that's what these radicalists do, and target specific people. And you watch that during the Dr. Phil years. You watch them with my moderators way back when. You've watched that with anyone that has a different thought process. People turn into fucking dangerous predators. And they purposely hunt people and try to destroy them. Okay? And so you saw that even though I was so fucking triggered by so many things, I did not have the inkling to go and terrorize people. Now, I may have called them and said, hey, stop fucking radicalizing people against me, because I'm getting death threats. You're causing people to do shit to me through all these different means because of what you're saying. You're not being responsible for your speech because you have to get hits and clicks because you're starving. You're using me as a freaking platform. But that's not me terrorizing them. That's me asking them, please stop making me a victim here. Okay? And that was all new like 7 years ago. It was all new. Now the system is trying to figure out how to help people not become victims of predators on online, because people can't handle other people's thought processes, and they purposely go and attack them. And not even just attack, because you could say, well, Jillian, you went and purposely put in their, YouTube or Facebook and went and tried to. I could say I defend, but what I was responding to was the radicalization against me, to where you radicalize people to go after me. When you target a specific person, say a person's name, and you radicalize your little minions to go after a person, you are just as culpable. Just like Charles Manson. He wasn't the major aggressor when you think about it with some of these killings. He got his minions, the girls, to go and kill people. That's what Charles Manson was a representation of. Those on YouTube, those on Facebook, radicalizing their mind-controlled minions who have no fucking ounce of critical thinking skills, and then tell them to go and attack someone spiritually. The Charles Mansonization of information. And that's what I experienced, was the Charles Mansons of the world radicalizing their minions to go and attack and stalk people. That's how fucked up our humans are out there. And it's all the religious people who do this. It's a lot of these scientific, dogmatic people that claim they're the saviors of the fucking world, but they're atheists. And that's a lot of the political people who stalk and try to destroy people because of different ways of thinking. So the system knows how deadly the purge process was, and that's why you have to stay home and stay safe, delivery services, and also therapies in case you needed that support. This is just the beginning. You saw the preview the last 3 years, and even more so the last 7 years of my world, the Charles Mansonization of radicalists. Radicalized fucking people who can't handle new information. And they are fucking deadly. Change doesn't happen instantaneously. Some people don't survive changes. But if you have a body to you and you can handle pain and suffering and you support your body correctly, whatever that means, I want to give you hope you can survive the process. It's a layer by layer process. So I want to give you hope you can survive this shit. Other people want to go shit on hope and fuck on hope and say fuck hope and all that stuff. And then they destroy people through just wearing them down so they can own them. So they can own the market share, they can own all the Patreon accounts, they can own people's minds and bodies. That's what Charles Manson did. He owned his cult following. He owned them and destroyed them. Now go look at your Facebook, all the people who are owning their friends and family, owning their following, radicalized people, forcing the YouTubers to make disclaimers. Do not go and stalk somebody, because there are people that will do that. The Charles Mansonization of ideas. And you saw that happen to me and many other people that try to give a different thought process. Try not to get caught in the crossfire of people releasing their demons, because they will be formidable. And so we judge people because we recognize danger within ourselves and within them. Judgment means we recognize danger somewhere and we don't know where to place it. It's hard to place the danger within ourselves because we think we're doing the right thing. But when you say you don't judge people and then you judge people for judging, you are judging them. We recognize there's danger somewhere and it's within you if you can see it. I don't want to love people. I don't want them to love me. They turn you into a cult leader. That's when you're so fixated on validation that you'll sacrifice your body, mind, and spirit and your firstborn to be validated by the world. And when people love you, they will also destroy you with their love. The road to hell and death is paved by good intentions and by unconditional love. The road to hell is paved by unconditional love. I've had so much unconditional love from so many people and unconditional hate. And yeah, right now we're in the hell because of all the good intentions. Remember, the medical and the holistic system is a good intention paved by unconditional love and hate that is causing the hell we're all in right now. And so I hope you survive the hell that you're in. Remember, friends and family provide you unconditional love or they wouldn't be your friends and family. And people are suffering astronomically from that unconditional love. And yet they can't leave it. They need more of it. They can't get enough. That's the greed of our society manifesting into biological outcomes. Okay? And so when someone says, oh gosh, you shouldn't judge people, you should only love them, give them all the love. Yeah, that's why they're almost dying and dead, because of all your unconditional love and your good intentions. Normal, mortal, abnormal, immortal. So the Hayflick limit. Hayflick discovered that the normal cells only have so much life within them. It's called senescence. And then the next immortal germline cell for the next world will then have to go and find a cabinet of somatic cells to then redouble itself 50 times again. So you always have a chance to keep living and living and living, so as long as you can handle the evolution of the new immortal germline cells. So when you are getting tests from the doctors and they're only trying to keep your one life and they don't want you to evolve to the next life because that would require a lot that they're not willing to give or can afford to give, and how do you even reprogram people to condition them to for the next life? No, they are made to only keep your one life, and then if they can't treat you anymore, then you're in hospice. So normal equals mortal, abnormal equals immortal. Hayflick limit or Hayflick phenomenon is defined as the number of times a normal cell population divides before entering the senescence process or phase. McFarland Burnett coined the term C limit in 1974, 50 years ago. Exactly right. If you have abnormal, immortal cell replication, it is your time to evolve. If you choose to resist evolution, death from natural causes is expected inevitably. Now, I probably had, I had pneumonia as a kid, and they probably gave me a bunch of sulfa and protein loaded me, and that's how my parents saved me and gave me the life that I have today, and programmed in a specific way. But I had to revisit that pneumonia, I'm sure, a couple of years ago in July of 2022, when I felt that beast move within or not move within. And so at some point you will have to pay the piper when the environment changes. See, in a slower frequency environment, they could play the game of, here, take some antibiotics and we'll keep that beast at bay and have you keep growing in this specific lifeline. But at some point when the environment does change, then that beast within that was kept at bay through the cures and everything else then wants to come to surface. And do you have the body, mind, and spirit to handle that transition? Okay, so Hayflick discovered, okay, humans could be immortal given normal cells are your first lives in the world. And you could have a second life if you understood how to support evolution. Okay, and so if you have abnormal immortal cell replication, it is your time to evolve. If you choose to resist evolution, death from natural causes is expected inevitably. Walking pneumonia, mycoplasma is like your understudy, letting you know it's time to evolve to a second lifetime. So in those who are in acting or dancing and they have an understudy, knowing every single dance step that you're doing in case something happens to you, the show can go on. That's the thing. That's the same thing that goes on in people's bodies, the positive negatives, that eventually when the old world dies off and then old you have to die off, you can't resist that or you die off with the old world. Okay? Mycoplasma, pneumonia are the new immortal germline cells. And if you want to live a second life, you have to learn how to assimilate to the beast and kick out what the body's trying to push out. And what you call a demon and beast is still relative to how you want to characterize any kind of struggle. But you're still left with what you're supposed to be left with if you're still alive. People do die longer because their first life is deteriorating so aggressively. And so because someone's 116 years old, they look like the Walking Dead. Eventually they will die because their skin's gnarled up. So much things are changing. They're at deficits, but they're still alive, right? They're still speaking. They're 116 years old, but they're the Walking Dead. You must learn how to straddle both worlds and eventually step into the new world. All right? That's when you're managing the transition between the old world and the new world. You're not a demon until you pass away. Stepping to the other side. And that's why people see ghosts, and some people also call them demons. They're recognizing the old world trying to take over the new world, and the ghost demons don't have the strength to possess what isn't theirs. And if they do have the strength to possess, then it's theirs. And that's some people who are in hospice. The old world is taking them back. The ancestors are taking them back to the old world. People give themselves back to the old world. They choose to pass away. They were told they must pass away through all the unconditional love and religion. And that's why love and hate are two sides of the same coin, because people destroy each other and themselves through the love and hate, and intolerance is part of the love and hate mentality. People think if they love something enough, they can wear it down and make it theirs. People think if they hate something enough, they can wear it down and make it theirs. It's all about possession and ownership when you love and hate people. That's why you have all the religion and politics and scientific dogmas, and why people chase relationships. They want to own something or be owned. And remember, Klaus Schwab said, you will own nothing and be happy. Well, he's fucking right. I don't own anybody. I don't even own this house. It belongs to the bank. And then even if I do pay it off, it still belongs to my community, because I still have to abide by the laws and abide by and pay the taxes for living on this land, because it's not my land. I don't own anything. I must pay to make sure that it's maintained properly, the infrastructure is maintained properly, it's up to code and all that stuff, right? And so you will own shit and be happy. I don't own anything and I'm fucking happy, okay? Grey's Anatomy was showing us how the system wore you down through love, hate, operations, religion, and relationships, and gurus. They also showed you how quick it is a person can become incoherent. They went to that hospital for a reason. And then everything happened in that hospital that would have happened at home, okay? So, when I'm watching Grey's Anatomy, I've been watching it. I've never watched it. I've heard about Pat Dempsey and Isaiah Washington and Ellen Pompeo. And my gosh, she is so skinny in that show. And then, of course, Sandra Oh. And they all went. And then, of course, Katherine Heigl. And then Kate Walsh. Oh, my gosh. They're all really awesome actors and actresses. And then they all go off to their different movies that they've done and whatever. But I never got into those medical shows, ER and all that. But it was a programming to show you what was going to happen in the future when disease and cancer and, you know, a flip of the switch where someone is coherent and then incoherent will happen almost instantly. One day they're healthy, the next day they die. One day they're healthy, the next day they can't even speak a single word. What is healthy? It's all relative to what is acceptable in that society at the time. And so when the poles flip and when the environment accelerates, what was healthy at one point, people won't even survive. And so you're watching then in this drama, soapy series of Grey's Anatomy, they're interweaving relationships, families, every single situation that could possibly come up. It's 19 seasons. If you were to think a season is a year, 19 seasons. It's like a 20-year programming. And then you have all the other medical shows on top of that. Oh yeah, you were conditioned to expect some pretty aggressive shit that's going on right now that you're seeing in the died suddenly groups. Just go look at the died suddenly groups and read everything that they're writing about their friends or family themselves. They were healthy one day and the next day they're now dealing with so much stuff. The demons are your old self that you resist trying to kick out. It's your body deteriorating, trying to take down as many people as possible through your dogmatic principles. That's why I don't get involved with people's politics, religions, or science dogmas. I have no reason to self-medicate myself because I've already released the dying part of myself. I have no interest to keep the dying part of myself in my body, mind, and spirit. When people can't let go, they die. When you can't let go of friends and family, you die with them. When people can't let go of the past, they die with the past. Okay? And so, grand unified theory, everything is connected. Fiction is nonfiction. Nonfiction is fiction. Choose your own adventure. You can live in your fiction world and choose what is fiction. You can live in your nonfiction world and choose what you think is nonfiction. And the kicker is, the freedom is, you get to choose. And when you choose, you can't bitch about the outcomes. Ha, boom. And so, yeah, I was reading somebody's Facebook yesterday and they were saying like, oh yeah, the whole thing with climate change, I'm going to put that nonfiction into the fiction. And I'm like, what the hell is she? But that's what I'm saying. People choose not to believe that there's climate change. They think, I don't know what the hell they're thinking. They think it's the V's that have that much power to cause all these different things. Oh, let me tell you, we're in, what is it? We're in February 8th. It's 33 degrees. It's going to be 51 degrees today. Last year or the year before or whatever, February, we were under feet of snow. It was negative 30 degrees. But then, here we go. Next week, we're going to be in a polar vortex. See, climate change and global warming doesn't mean that, it's just hot continuously. Climate change and global warming is when the barometric pressure swings so high and so low, so aggressively that people cannot find relative equilibrium, and there's growth, there's death, and that growth turns into death, and people are not surviving, regardless of therapy status. Because even people who are not therapized are still dealing with shit. Remember, I didn't get any therapy. I've gotten all my V's way back when, and 20 years ago in the military. I have not received a V since the military. So how do you explain my situation? Oh, you're around people who have been. Okay. Well, that's no different than way before. You're around people who have whatever. If you can't handle your environment and the people around you, it doesn't matter what the fuck you do. So then you got to look at beyond just the V's, people. Yes, we're in climate change. Oh, wait, they want to change. They want to blame it on the chemtrails. Okay. Yes, it's making the climate a little bit hotter. That's called climate change. Why is that? Because the reflection, a highly conductive atmosphere. The rain is activated, turning into crazy storms. The sun burns hotter and warmer, even though it says 51 degrees outside. There's a different type of energy that's going on that even it causes me to go and turn my heat down to, instead of 71, it turns to 68 sometimes. So if you want to live in your little, whatever, choose what is fiction or nonfiction, that's your choice. You can have whatever religion you want, right? But you can't bitch about the outcomes when you don't survive because you choose to then put people and things into certain categories so you can live in your own little fantasy world. Fine. Grey's Anatomy, predictive programming. We are living Grey's Anatomy. A kid walks in with a mother accusing him of being on drugs because of a certain behavioral changes. Now, this is one of the vignettes or segments, one of the episodes. He tests negative. All of a sudden, he blurts out something crazy. And now he's in a life or death situation needing to be operated on. And you see Sandra Oh's character who just loves to open people up, who just loves the surgery. She can't wait to do more surgery. She loves open heart surgery. Okay? Another patient walks in with hiccups and then dies. It's like I'm watching the stories in the Die Suddenly groups while watching Grey's Anatomy. Is it a coincidence because of acting in a 40-minute storyline and you have to put all situations together if it does not seem like they should be put together? Because it's so quick. There is nothing coincidental. All right? My perspective, what they were trying to warn us is that what's going to happen in the future. You're coherent one day and then incoherent the next moment. You're bred for a certain kind of world. Some might survive the transition, others will not survive the transition. Holy shit. And so binge watching some of these Netflix series that some people are like, oh, don't watch the Obamas, Netflix. Stay away from the TV. Stay away from all the programming. Well, yeah, if you're that easily influenced by programming because you don't trust that you can have a critical thinking bone in your body, you're going to stay away from everything that you think is going to influence you because you don't know how to separate what is a warning and a perception and how you want to perceive it. And you can perceive it as, I don't know, when you tell people don't watch something, it's because you're showing you're weak, that you can't handle taking on information. You're too afraid you're going to get influenced by it. That just shows how weak you are. Binge watching some of these Netflix series that were on primetime terrestrial TV 20 years ago was like aggressive particle acceleration. And you see the points they're trying to make much faster, and you're also seeing the eerie similarities in the storylines and what is going on in real life. Now you can't tell the difference between TV and true life because they have finally become one. Actors are not reptiles like all these conspiracy people are like, oh God, the Queen's a reptile, the actors are reptiles, they're Illuminati. No, some don't even know that they were used as a tool. Some were allowed to act out their proclivities, like potentially, allegedly Diddy and Epstein, of course, and others, and like R. Kelly and whatever, and even Cosby, Weinstein. No one told them not to do whatever. They allowed them to do whatever to see how bad it would get, to see what people would do for fame and fortune, even sell their body, mind, and soul, and even be abused by it. Actors are not reptiles. Some don't even know they were used as a tool, used as a representation of the current world and the future. Some of the writers were exposed to some of the esoteric knowledge and wrote about it. And now you can't tell the difference between your friends and family and the actors on TV because they're all the same people. Everyone is playing a part with the script that was given to them since day one. You are in Grey's Anatomy right now. Like you are literally in Grey's Anatomy right now. Okay. And so there's that. And so the gut grand unified theory is basically merging together all that was disconnected, merging together fiction and nonfiction, and finally everything becomes one. Politics, religion, and science become the same story, and you can choose to hold on to the past and die with the past and be the human sacrifice, or fight to live and forge into the future, making up positive, negative, which is one. Neo is relative equilibrium. No matter who lives or dies, the dead and the living are still part of the whole. You just choose where you want to end up. You can dress up the afterlife any way you want to. You already see what's going on in this life. You can make it as ugly or as beautiful as you want. It's a known factor. When you're dead, do you have that latitude to make the dead world as beautiful as the alive world? Because again, people develop their own world they live in. And so if the system really wanted you to look forward to dying, they would have maybe Stranger Things dress up the upside down as something beautiful, not something kind of scary with the Demogorgon, right? But the system is trying to tell you the truth. Death is not beautiful. The afterlife is probably not as beautiful as you think it is. And so when you're dead, do you have the latitude to make the dead world as beautiful as the alive world? Because again, people develop their own world they live in. But when you're dead, do you get that latitude? It is a major unknown. Death is a major unknown. But if you don't want to think about that, then you do everything you can and enjoy the life you have until you die suddenly. if you get the luxury of not feeling any pain. That's why the system does what it does, because suffering is not acceptable in this society, even ever, unless you choose to suffer without anyone putting their hands on you. And if they put their hands on you and make you suffer, there are many reasons why, such as surgery system and the medical holistic system. I want to live, so I will suffer through my own predisposed issues and make my world beautiful. And I will not hold anyone back from escaping to the afterlife because their suffering is so much. I understand. Their suffering is too much. Fine, go. I can't help you. You can't handle suffering? Fine. And so some people will only stay with you for 60 to 80 years, and they choose to go, you let them go and save yourself. What most people do is fight to keep other people around and destroy themselves in the process, resisting the intentions of their loved ones, which is how families and friends self-annihilate. And if you choose to be representation, then you will suffer from people saying that you're stupid. So if you're not strong enough to be a representation of someone who can survive suffering, then play whatever game you want, and that's fine. I had an issue with that a couple of years ago, why it is a lot of people in the J world could not really put out there the amount of suffering that they are surviving, because that wasn't, and that's fine. I resisted that, and now I'm like, do what you got to do. I'll be the representation and the hope. And hopefully some of you guys that understand me will be around in the future and said, I survived all that. I just don't want to be representation because I just wasn't strong enough to be that. And I get it. I understand. It's very tough straddling the old world and the new world. And so sirens this morning, many sirens this morning, more angels getting their wings, so to speak. Yeah, I heard a lot of sirens this morning, 5:30 this morning. Okay? So, yeah, you're all getting a chance. You're all getting a chance to figure out that you have choices here. And I'm telling you, it's not going to be easy, because so many people are stuck in the paradigms of validation and trying to resist the evolution. And when you resist evolution, it is a die suddenly. Okay? When you resist evolution, it will be a die suddenly. And people are formidable about that, because they know that they don't have too long. Or they know that from what I have put out there, that unless they do some changes and gain more substance to give them that currency, that reserve, that energy conversion, it's just a matter of time, and you just hope they have a good life. And it sounds very, very negative. It sounds foreboding. It sounds formidable, but you're given a chance. But some people are trying to figure out how to get out of this current life without having to sacrifice themselves. They're trying to figure out how to quit their job, trying to figure out how they're going to make it. What's it going to take? Well, so you can scale down hours. You can get something different. I don't know. Figure out, do you have to have all these hobbies? If you have all these hobbies, see, when it comes to surviving, you got to look at what it is you're spending your money on. You got to look at what it is that's keeping you entertained. See, I'm so easily entertained. I could watch a Netflix series and eat food and write stuff and clean up stuff every so often. And yesterday I did some vacuuming, and I know I've been losing so much hair, right? And then the vacuum was having an issue because the hair was wrapped around. And I'm like, geez. And so I turned it over and see all this hair. It's like cutting hair. I'm cutting all this hair from my vacuum. Okay? And so, all right, so what's my life is reading in the internet, releasing demons, surviving, helping my husband figure out his stuff, maintain bills because of whatever, do whatever I do and whatever is done in a marriage. And I've simplified things. To where I don't even have to spend that much money. And if I had to work, it would be like part-time to make a certain, amount, so that way I don't go into, my principal. Okay? Which is the reserve, so I can have something to fall back on. And that's the thing. So some people are trying to figure out how to get out of their current life, because they're going to die in it. If they don't do something different, they're going to fucking die in it. And that's a really morbid thing to think about. But the writing is on the wall. But again, that's why the system has tempted you with pleasure and paradise and animals and friends and family and traveling and all that, because some people this is their last life. This is they're not going to be able to take on that because it's too much of an unknown. I'll tell you, when I look back a couple years ago, when I was crawling up the stairs, and I still have my dog around, crawling up that stairs and crawling down the stairs, and just, oh my God. When you're in it, man, you just want to survive it. You don't see it for what it is. But that's the thing with me, is you're getting to see that some people can survive that battle. But again, I had to deal with the coughing, the sneezing, the blowing the nose, releasing the demons, eating all the food, not being afraid of meat, milk, cheese, and eggs. And if you are allergic to meat and milk and leafy greens and eggs and all that, then you got to introduce them very slowly and condition your body to release. And some people are afraid. They're afraid of anaphylactic reactions. I don't fucking blame you. Society is a mess. People are a mess. It's really bad. But I still cannot censor myself because others can't understand where I'm coming from. Because there's those out there who don't say anything. Understand, and they do things quietly, and I understand that. Because you saw what I went through. The vultures, the parasites, the people who are so resistant to anything, the legalistic people, they will shit on you if possible. So some people have to protect themselves and they have to stay quiet, and I understand that. And that sucks when you have a society where you can't say anything because of your friends, your family, or what people think. And then also they will stalk you. Those are the monsters of our society. That's why the system is doing a purge process, because we have fostered those types of people. And you see them think that it's okay to do that, and they do it. The system made it okay because they want to see what you would do. I'll tell you, when I was reacting to everybody, I wasn't trying to destroy them. In not so many words, I was telling them to stop being a Charles Manson. Stop radicalizing your followers to destroy people. Like what Charles Manson did. That's what I was reacting to. And they made me out to be the enemy. Oh, no. I didn't even know who the fuck you were until you made yourself known to me. That's what I was up against, was the Charles Mansonification of my ideas. People that were radicalized against my ideas, and they were trying to destroy me, and they tried to destroy the ideas, and they radicalized their followers. I'm sure they're proud of themselves to be a destroyer of life. I'm sure they're very proud of themselves. Oh, they made money off it, but hey, so does the medical system. So does the holistic system. So does the religious system. They make money off of destroying other people. So if money is your God, you will destroy everything that you can in order to make that bottom dollar. And the system knows that, and they see how greedy and superficial our society is. That's why we're in a great reset. So there you go. Bye.